So the only sensible way to test acoustic Doppler sensor or a current sensor is to test it in a tow tank. So here you see examples of tow tank tests that were run in different situations. This was when the sensors, the DCS was fairly new. In 2011, here you see tow tank, the speed of the trolley in the tow tank, which is very accurate, versus the speed of the instrument. So you see that there's a really good agreement. And recently there was another set of tests done, and you see here we tested both the RCM Blue, which is a version of the DCS, which has a version of the DCS, and the standalone Doppler current sensor. So if we look at different applications apart from measuring currents, here we see one example, and this is measurements that are done by the German navigational authorities to keep ship lanes open for navigation. You have examples here of one of Europe's largest harbors, Hamburg, for example, and Bremerhaven, where these harbors are loaded with incoming rivers loaded with sediments. So the navigational authorities here use Seaguard instruments with Doppler current, single point Doppler current sensors on them, and also measure other parameters as well. The most important ones in this case are its currents with the single point Doppler current sensor and turbidity, but they also measure salinity, oxygen, depth, and sometimes wave and tide. And the thing here is that they deploy in rivers and environments with extremely high sediment loads. And they have about 200 instruments, about half of them are permanently, so about half are all the time in operation in the rivers, and they plan the dredging activities with them. So the rivers are loaded with sediments, and in the summer, when there is high fouling, an issue can be that the turbidity sensor that you see here can get fouled after some time. And then we wanted to find out if there was a way of getting particle concentrations also with the backscatter from the acoustic Doppler sensor from the Doppler current sensor. And you see here an example of a deployment which was done in a river. You can see the speed on the second graph here, high speed up to 120, 130 centimeters per second. Completely tidally driven system. You see here the currents are going in and out of the river here, driven by the tide. At the top, you see here the turbidity, and you see turbidity goes up to about 1,200 FTU. And at the same time, you can see here the backscatter, the acoustic backscatter given from the Doppler current sensor. If we look at these two and plot them together, we can see that there is a clear correlation between them, between the acoustics here and between the logarithm of the optical turbidity sensor. So once that relation is established in the beginning of the deployment, you can use the acoustic backscatter as a proxy for particles and particle transport in the river, even if the turbidity sensor gets fouled after some weeks, because the acoustic sensors are basically completely insensitive to biofouling. They can be deployed for very long time periods without issues. So in these rivers, it's also of interest to detect fluid mud. Fluid mud, now we are talking about really high concentrations of sediments, and these have implications for navigation. And the fluid mud is also of interest to detect in other applications like dredging and underwater mining and such activities. So we did experiments on how you can detect that by combining the turbidity sensor and with the backscatter of the Doppler current sensor. And here you see some experiments that were done where we set up in an aquarium. We set up with stirring and with the industrial clay. So we mix in with different concentrations of clay, and you can see here 500 milligrams per liter and 20,000 milligrams per liter, 20 grams per liter. Then we are approaching fluid mud levels of sediment concentrations. Sorry, I'll go back. You see here the increase in turbidity, and our turbidity sensors, they go up to 2,500 FTU. Then they start to decrease, and you cannot really know if on what side of this curve you are. But with help of the acoustic backscatter, you can see that the acoustic backscatter gets dampened as the particle concentrations increase. So with that, you can get, with the combination of these two, you get an approximate estimate of the concentration and of the fluid mud. And we see that in the rivers, when you have fluid mud, you can measure the movement and transport of the fluid mud. So here is another example of where we monitor the sediment resuspension from underwater drilling activities, where we put the Doppler current sensor combined with other sensors on an ROV connected to the ROV's electronics, and the ROV is then both doing surveys of spreading of particles as the drilling activities is going on, and the ROV was also doing a lot of transect, sailing back and forth, and do mapping of underwater fauna, so fauna sitting on the bottom. At the same time in this project, instruments were deployed on the seafloor. This is in the Arctic, close to the mid-Atlantic ridge. They were deployed on the bottom. They were deployed with the ROV, and they were pushed into the bottom so that they were standing firmly in the bottom and deployed for time periods of 1 year. The goal here was to measure resuspension and sediment transport along the bottom, and also the oxidants, salinity, temperature conditions, and the movement of the seafloor. So the movement of the seafloor we get both from pressure sensor, which has millimeter accuracy or resolution, and from the DCS, which gives us the heading, the changes in heading and tilt over time. And we see here that over a time period of 10 months, 2 instruments deployed about 1 kilometer apart, they were showing the same change in heading over a time period of 10 months, about 1 degree change. And this is related to rotation of the bottom, a combination of rotation of the bottom and the change in the magnetic deviation at this location. So you can detect that. So then finally, I will show you one example of where these sensors have been used to detect animal movements in the deep sea. This is a group in University of Western Australia, which are deploying landers in the Hadal zone. Hadal is the deepest trenches on Earth. They deploy these landers for short time periods where they fall to the bottom. And when on the bottom, these landers are baited, and they can then they have cameras, and the time it takes for animals to arrive to the bait is used as a proxy for stock assessment. So when the landers are deployed, we can see here the backscatter from the Doppler current sensor. These are landers often working 2 by 2 in parallel, and how they sink down to, in this case, to 6,200 meters. What we should notice here is the increased backscatter levels. So this is the backscatter from the DCS, increased backscatter levels when you approach the seafloor. There is a blown up graph of the same thing. You see that when you approach the seafloor, several hundred meters above the seafloor, you have increased levels of particles. And you see it here also at 6,000 meters, at 5,000, at 4,000 meters. So that's a useful thing to have. Another useful thing with the DCS in this case was that once the lander landed on the seafloor, you see from the acoustic backscatter that it creates a sediment cloud. You see a resuspension here. The resuspension then goes down. Then you see spikes in the acoustic backscatter as the deployment goes along. At the same time, you see spikes in the standard deviation of the currents. That's a parameter that is automatically calculated by the Doppler current sensor. Every single of these standard deviation change or increase in standard deviation of the currents is related to an animal swimming around the lander here. So you can use this feature to detect, for example, trigger cameras for long deployments, because you cannot have the cameras on all the time. So spike in standard deviation and the spike in the acoustic backscatter, this was related to animals swimming around because in the vicinity. You can also see the currents here measured in blue, which are below 10 centimeters per second. And then there was also other measurements done, salinity, oxygen saturation, and temperature, and so. So if you are interested to learn more about applications with the DCS and with our instruments, please log into our web pages. Here is about the Seaguard, different ways of using the Seaguard and the DCS in different types of applications, combination of instruments and sensors. Here is the one I talked about where that instrument was tilted over by a sediment avalanche triggered by an earthquake in Marmara Sea off Istanbul in Turkey. Here is about detecting animals in the Hadal zone and the mineral mining things on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. So we have, and the recent one is SOFAR Ocean, which integrates our Doppler current sensors. After careful testing, they have found this one to be the best current sensor to be integrated to their system, and that's now they are delivering that on their systems. So with this, I will pass over to Bipin and let Bipin take you through some of the applications he has been involved in the Middle East and in Africa. Bipin, please go ahead.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Anders, for the comprehensive overview of the Andera Doppler current sensor and doing the deep dive with Andera DCS in various applications, which are being data collected in different using the different methodology and the platforms. I will now sail all of you through a DCS application in a shallow water. I come from what they call being Middle East in almost 17 years, most of the work experience across the shallow water area. In the next few slides, I will walk through how Andera Doppler current sensors adds a value across several key marine sectors, and we'll look at this role in coastal ecosystem monitoring. We're going to talk about sustainable aquaculture, and then including the ports and harbor, and last not the least is the oil platforms and SPMs, and how DCS is being used in supporting the safe and efficient applications across these applications. The first one is enhancing the coastal ecosystem monitoring using Andera DCS, and the mangroves, coral reefs, seagrasses, or other marine habitat is an important part of marine ecosystems. Especially the mangroves are important because they protect coastline from a strong wave storms, provide a safe nursery for many fish and marine animals, and help to fight climate change by storing a large amounts of carbon. Their roots also filter water and support healthy ecosystem while offering a valuable resource livelihood to nearby communities. Mangroves absorb carbon dioxide and release fresh oxygen, helping clean the air and fight climate change. Yes, we talk about the marine conservation, sustainable marine environment and all, but especially in Middle East, there is a commercial aspect of the mangroves are there. There are many such real estate properties in Abu Dhabi and across the different Emirates, and same in different part of the Middle East, where if you want to buy a property, real estate property, let's say Sky Tower in Abu Dhabi, that will cost you $50,000 more as compared to the one which is not facing the mangroves, and you'll open your window, you go get a chance to see them wonderful marine habitat in the morning, and the fresh oxygen should be also coming too. So coming from the commercial aspect of mangroves to kayaking, different mangrove parks and all, Middle East region, they invest a lot in sustaining these marine habitats. The monitoring the water quality and current across the mangroves, seagrass, meadows, and coral reefs is essential to understand their ecosystem health and resilience. In mangroves, the important key parameters are salinity, temperature, dissolved oxygen, nutrients. Dr. Anders, the backslide, yeah. Nutrients and turbidity alongside tidal currents that drive the sediment transport, water exchange. Coral reefs depend upon monitoring, what you call temperature. Andera makes one of the world-class best oxygen sensors, dissolved oxygen sensors, and including the turbidity. So those can be used to measure, what you call various water quality parameter in the platform in using the different ways of monitoring these one. And for the reef scale measure, these can be used for the reef scale measure currents and wave, energy regulate, nutrient deliveries, waste removal, thermal mixing, larval dispersal. And these measurements provide the complete hydrodynamic and environmental context needed to assess the ecosystem functioning, stress and restoration potential. Comes to the seagrass, the Abu Dhabi owns, what they called 4% of the world's seagrass, and that's what they called when it comes to seagrass. It's careful tracking of light availability, turbidity, nutrients, temperature, and chlorophyll, combined with measurement of near-base seabed currents and wave-drain flow that influence the nutrient uptake and sediment stability. So when we talk about monitoring all these parameters, Xylem and Andera, which is a Xylem brand, provides a complete one-stop metocean solution for including the various water quality parameter to measure these parameters. And Andera Doppler current sensors plays an important role in hydrodynamic condition monitoring across the key acoustic system. In mangrove, they provide the measure the tidal currents and water exchange in the creeks and channel, whereas in coral reefs, they can track the water flow essential for nutrient delivery, waste removal, and thermal stress mitigation. In seagrass meadows, they quantify the flow regime that influence the nutrient exchange and plant health assess. Now, the next question, how the DCS can be used. If you see the photograph on the right-hand side, Xylem do have a product called DB600 real-time buoy. And this product can carry a multi-parameter XO2 sound and a combined with Doppler current sensor, and that can provide the real-time telemetry data and on your fingertips with, say, let's say every 10 minutes, and that can be gathering the various water quality parameter and whether what kind of applications you have. That's a wonderful theme for a portable deployment on in a mangrove or coral reef application. Next slide, Dr. Anders. As Dr. Anders said, there are various application notes available on the Andera website, and the DCS Doppler current sensor with the other different water quality parameter solution provided by Andera is being used across the world. There are a few benefits of using the DCS. The DCS provide the complete quantitative and hydrodynamic data to guide the management decision. It supports the restoration and conservation projects. It enhances the understanding of ecosystem dynamics under various environmental stress, and it helps in prioritizing areas for the productions or restoration. That was all about the marine conservation application for DCS. The next one is aquaculture, especially UAE and other countries across the Middle East. They run the Vision 2030, and part of one of the their part is the food security. And when it comes to the seafood, there's a pure, what they call one of the favorite food across the Middle East region. So there are n number of infrastructures being deployed, whether from the Oman to Qatar to the UAE to Kuwait to Saudi, and where they're providing the different seafood. And when it comes to the seafood farming in the sea, there are n number of parameters, what they called matters, and to monitor or to sustain the aquaculture, what they call business in the sea, in the sea, the key quality monitoring the key quality parameter is quite, what they call important, and especially the current measurement, which is essential for ensuring the sustainable marine aquaculture that directly influence the animal health, growth rates, and ecosystem impact. The few of the critical parameters to include is that what you call temperature, including the thermocline layer, the salinity, dissolved oxygen, what you call we have seen is being degraded because of the toxic algae blooms or different marine pollution coming across the infrastructure of the aquaculture site. pH, turbidity, chlorophyll, and these what you call these are the since these control metabolic performance, disease risk, and water clarity while also indicating a potential eutrophication. Another aspect is the hydrodynamic modeling is crucial in aquaculture as water currents influence waste dispersion, oxygen distribution, and feed efficiency, and looking onto the overall stock of health. Understanding the current pattern across the marine, what you call this marine infrastructure, aquaculture infrastructure, it helps in optimizing the site selection, assessing carrying capacity, or ensuring environmental completion. Now, whether you're looking for the, what you call getting the baseline survey or looking for the feasibility study for putting a sea cages or, looking for your operational once the sea cage is being deployed, the Andera and what they call provide a complete one-stop solution for providing the comprehensive overview monitoring of these different metocean water quality parameter. And the Andera Doppler current sensor, when it's being deployed in a various way, can measure accurately the speed and direction, providing a real-time or log data for informed operation what they call operational decision to handle your day-to-day business direction. The DCS can be mounted. If your previous slide, Dr. Anders, the DCS can be mounted on a Seaguard platform if you're looking for doing the feasibility study or you're looking for a baseline data collection, or it can be Seaguard string as you see on the left hand, what you call photo. That can be logged on a various water column, or we can integrate with this different multi-parameter water quality parameters with the Xylem. The new SOFAR spotted surface buoy, and it can combine the what you call we can measure the water quality parameters in the mid depth or say currents on the what you call near surface or mid depth or just over the seabed, and this can be providing the complete one-stop solution from your requirement from the as I said from the baseline survey to the feasibility study or managing day-to-day operations, even the HSE. Health and safety and environmental impact on these marine aquaculture structures. The DCS provide the robust design, withstand harsh marine condition, and make it ideal for offshore aquaculture. The key application for DCS includes optimizing case placement to reduce the fish stress, structural damage, protecting the waste plumes to protect the seabed, aligning the feed strategies with current and monitoring environmental impacts, and providing early warning for extreme currents event. Next slide, Dr. Anders. As we have various application nodes available, and we have in the Middle East we have done what they call number of work with the various organization. A few of them was with the Blue Water Sea in Oman. We have done our first water quality buoy for Dibaway. That's the first oyster farm in the Middle East. We have done a decent amount of work in the Kuwait with the government sector and across various handheld meters being used in the shrimps and other farming and Saudi Arabia and all And if you're planning to use the DCS, and again, what you call Xylem one-stop solution, that provides to improve the farm productivity and reduce the environmental footprints and enhance the animal welfare. And the last, not the least, is support the data-driven sustainability and management. Next slide, Dr. Anders. DCS has been quite useful in the, what they call in ports and harbor management, especially monitoring the current, including other metocean parameters in ports and harbor management. Who forgot the, what they call the Evergreen vessel, which got sunk and a couple of years ago in the Suez Canal. So that's making it not even, what they call stop the complete traffic, but that was also the issue to the carbon footprints. It was a huge impact to the world economy as well as the environment. So to avoid such situation, it's important to measure the various metocean parameters and what they call in ports and harbor, and that's ensure the safe vessel navigation, optimizing the dredging, sediment management, reduce the collision, grounding risk, and support environmental compliance and spill mitigation. The Doppler Andera current sensors accurately measure the current speed and direction, providing a real-time and log data into the informed decision to the port's harbor master. The key applications include the traffic management by assessing current pattern by docking, maneuvering, sediment monitoring to the optimized dredging activity, environmental monitoring to detect the water quality and habitat changes, and include infrastructure planning for the design and breakwater jetties. And we can also include the oil spill management with the currents, what you call if any the marine pollution is coming to the shore. Sorry, just another few words on the previous slide, Dr. Anders. So the Andera, not even the currents, you cannot get the whole information. So Andera does provide a Andera Motors Webbuoy, which is a comprehensive one-stop solution for delivering a real-time meteorology data, and what you call, and which can be used for various applications across in the ports and harbor by providing, it can provide you the accurate measurement, wave, currents, environmental condition, multi-water quality parameter, the visibility. You can see on the left-hand side the meteorological parameter, the visibility, current, wave, surface current, and to assess the impact of the storms and coastal port infrastructure. And this robust, high-quality buoy system helps operate, make an informed decision, reduce to the operational risk, ensure efficient marine activities. Together, these parameters provide a comprehensive understanding of environmental operation conditions crucial for mapping and modern ports and harbor safely. Let's take an example. We have just captured the data. If you see it's a time series plot in this slide, which illustrates the currents and wave observation from two Motors Wave buoys, which was deployed approximately 300 meters apart of the North Sea coast of Norway. Each buoy was carrying the payload of sensor for Doppler current sensor, the Motors Wave buoy, the motor sensor, and another, what you call, the second buoy was also carrying the Doppler current profiler. So DCS was measuring the near surface current just below the water surface, and the DCS was deployed in a tube. In this PVC tube. This is a Doppler current sensor, and this is a Doppler profiler. The Doppler profiler there sits across when the tube meets the water, whereas the DCS sits between the water surface and the profiler head. So when the data is being compared between the DCS measurement, when if you can see both the blue and black traces on the top panel, so the strong agreement between the two platforms, and they also align with the profiler's upper cell head, the first cell which is being collected by the Doppler current profiler. And this consistency holds even during period of a significant wave activity, which was up to a 7 meter. You see on the right hand side on the graph, recorded by Andera Motors Wave Sensor, which was the part of what you call both the buoys. This all demonstrating the robustness and the reliability of the current measurement under energetic sea state conditions. Xylem, we have deployed many Metocean system doing in Middle East, across Africa, and various including South Asia and various countries around the world. We have done the Metocean system deployed for the port of Fujairah. That's a Tide, Met, and Motors Wave based, what you call, is being deployed to provided to port authorities or harbor master. What you call these solutions. To Xylem has done couple of country level project. We have deployed our first number of Motors Wave network for along the coast of Morocco. And in 2022, we have completed a project with Uganda Ministry of Transport for deploying the 9 Motors Wave buoy and carrying the various payload of sensor, including Doppler current sensor, as part of their Great Lakes project. And the purpose was to improve the marine traffic in the Lake Victoria, Lake Albert, and Lake Kyoga. And the data was being transmitted from these all 9 Motors Wave buoy, over the 2,000 kilometer, using cellular telemetry to the port control office and their weather office, and also the data is being shared to via the radio telemetry to the nearest port authority. And not to this, coming back to another country level, we are Xylem office in the UAE. We have just supplied another set of 14 data buoys for a government entity in Saudi Arabia, And the purpose of the data buoy is being deployed across urban Gulf and Red Sea Global to monitor the marine pollution. And the sensor payload was multi-parameter water quality, a wind sensor, including Doppler current sensor. And the deployment is being still is being due, and that will going to happen in next few months from now. When you're planning to use the DCS for the ports and harbor application and other metocean parameter as a Xylem one-stop solution, basically it will enhance the safety and efficiency for the vessel navigation, reduce the maintenance and operational cost, being one-stop solution, and being most of the sensor is being deployed on the buoy, so you save the operational cost. Supports the data-driven decision making, whether you can see the whether what they call whether if it's a high wind or shamal winds and the currents are shooting off for the certain certain on a certain application. So those can be in the time series. You can come to know that on the high wind you're getting a high current, or it is the cell, and also it improves the environmental stewardship. Next slide, Dr. Anders. So this is the last slide. What you call for DCS application, how it can be, the customer can be benefited when using for oil and gas and single point mooring application. So effective oil and gas and SPM operation rely on a continuous monitoring of key metocean parameter to ensure safe offloading, structure reliability, and minimal downtime. A critical measurement includes wave height, period, and direction to define operability windows and manage mooring loads, surface and subsurface current that influence tanker weather vanning, hose integrity, riser fatigue, wind speed, direction, and gust that directly affect the vessel maneuvering and loading safety, for the oil and gas or and SPM operation. And there are Doppler current sensors plays a vital role in this application by providing the monitoring of current on a real-time, what you call basis, and that it may influence the, buoy weather vanning or enhancing tanker safety, supporting mooring loads, fatigue analysis, providing environmental data for compliance, and also for the time series, what you call data. Once you have the time series data, and you can, that will help you over the period of time to design your new SPMs and all, or different marine infrastructure across, the site. And offshore and oil and gas, they measure the currents affecting risers and pipelines, enhance metocean monitoring for drilling and production, and supply the real-time data for forecasting emergency response. The long-term stability, low power use from DCS, robust, corrosion resistant, and flexible integration make a wonderful ingredient for, what you call in the recipe to collect the data in the harsh offshore environment. So just concluding, for those applications, the Andera DCS is a wonderful piece of instrument, and it provides the accurate long-term current data, which enhance the coastal monitoring, whether you're talking about the seagrass, you talk about coral reefs, or you talk about mangroves, and it supports a sustainable aquaculture in a various sea cages applications and different oyster farms, or a different, what they called application in the marine aquaculture. It improves the ports and harbor management, inform the safe and efficient oil and gas SPM operation. In short, the DCS is a reliable current measurement from Andera, and it turned into actionable insight for better environmental stewardship and operation decision making. So that was all the piece of cake summation from myself and Dr. Anders, and we are here to take your question, if any. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for joining this webinar. We will send out a recorded version, and we will also send out the PDF version of the slides. And we have here help from Mark Tepper in Shanghai, and he has been looking into the Q&A. And was there any questions, Mark?
Well, first of all, thank you both for waking up so early in the morning. Anders, it was 7 o'clock in the morning in Norway. So big thank you, and thank you to Bipin. Yes, there were some, and by the way, we have a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So we encourage all attendees to go ahead and submit your questions, if you haven't done so already, into the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. We did receive some pre-submitted questions, and we can start with those. One question is, how and where are buoy systems used in offshore energy operations? You did touch on why they're important, but I think the question here is more around what sort of locations would be useful to measure.
Uh, Mark, it is specific to a particular application.
It says to offshore energy operations.
So depend upon what is the objective and purpose of the database deployment. If you're looking for the marine health and safety, then definitely is going to be deployed in the channels and where where the vessels is navigating across and towards the approach, so that they're proper. I have been many offshore jobs where I have done the monkey swing, or I have the the crane drop the basket transfers. So you do need what you call reliable Metocean data to run your what you call day-to-day operation. That's the number one. And number two, also not on the top of health and safety perspective, and also you look for the environmental perspective by what you call adding to the multi-water quality or oil spill sensors across the hotspots, let's say where the vessel anchorage areas is there, or your what you call or various hotspots, like these can be deployed. And
yes, and I can also add in some applications I know of where we have been involved as well. Bipin, you have many examples from your area. We have, for example, dredging applications, construction of offshore wind farms. Then both the dredging to monitor the spill and the spreading of the spill from dredging applications, and also safety applications. For example, can you continue the construction depending on wave height and wind mainly, and sometimes also currents. If currents are too strong, you cannot have divers in the water. You cannot have ROVs in the water because it's too difficult to operate.
Okay, thanks, Anders and Bipin. We did receive a question in the chat box here from Joseph. He's got two questions. One question is around deploying a buoy, and for a single line mooring chain, how often do you have to change it or clean it? And the second part is, assuming you're using a DCPS in the steady burst mode, how long would the battery last? So that's a two-part question. So either of you like to take this?
I will
Maybe
take
I
the
can.
first one.
Yeah, take the
Okay.
first one about the chain.
And what do you call, and Dr. Anders will take the second one. So to answer the question, just between say you have to keep the first thumb rule is you have to keep inspecting the chains health. First of all, you have to use a good quality between coated single point mooring chain. That's the number one. Number two, you have to do the inspection, regular intervention, regular preventive maintenance, as well as the inspections. Okay, say every quarter or every 6 months. And fourth, the life of these mooring chains pretty much depend upon the salinity level of the water, what you call, at the deployed location of the data buoy, what you call. And sometime we have seen the chains long last for 3 to 4 years. Sometime we have to change in 2 to 3 years. So it's purely based on, let's say, if you're deploying these ones to where you have so much of contaminations or say discharges coming out from the land to the sea, definitely have to do the what you call frequent maintenance, and the chains life will be not more what you call long. However, if you're deploying this buoy in a open sea, definitely the life will be long, and you have to not land up in what you call doing this frequent maintenance.
Yes, and I think because you have different experience from where you are, in warm waters, in the north, in cold waters. I know the navigational authorities here typically they use 16mm chains, and they change them every 3 years, and they are normally inspected once every year. But they regularly change them every 3 years. They use galvanized steel, which is the best thing, I think, because it has a regular corrosion. Absolutely not use stainless steel, because that has pit corrosion, so it can break in. It can look perfect, and then it breaks in one place because you have pit corrosion. So galvanized steel, and but in the waters you are, in warm waters, that's true. You have shorter lifetime of the chains.
Yeah.
Then the second question was, how long can you deploy a Doppler current profiling sensor or a Seaguard, maybe with internal battery with a Doppler current profiling sensor? that obviously depends on the time, what time interval you use and how many pings you use. Typically, if you deploy an instrument on the bottom, for example, on internal batteries, looking up, and it doesn't matter if you use burst mode, pinging at the end of the interval, or if you use spread mode, spreading out your pings over the interval. The power consumption is basically the same. If we say we ping 60 pings broadband over a time interval of half an hour, and you use internal alkaline batteries, which has a capacity of about 30 amp hours, then you can make a deployment over about 6 months. If you use lithium batteries, you can make the deployment over the double, so about 1 year, and then also including some additional sensors like pressure, wave and tide, pressure-based wave and tide, oxygen, salinity, for example, turbidity. So of course it depends on your interval. We have a battery calculator on our webpage where you can calculate the battery capacity on our standard instruments, and with respect to how you set up your instrument. If you want to use acoustic wave, that takes a lot of power. So then you have to be really careful about the deployment.
Great. Thanks, Bipin and Anders. Benjamin has a couple questions. The first one of his questions is, what is the durability of the DCPS? What are the challenges of using the DCPS in rugged waters? And then the second question from him is, what are those things that can affect the working process and the data transmission of the sensors?
Durability depends on fouling, I would say. Depends. We see here, for example, in Sweden, we work with the Swedish navigational authorities. They have 150 stations in real time. Some of them are more complete with complete systems, HyDMET systems, and they come from us. We have worked with them for the past 30 years, and typically the instruments and sensors last for 7 to 10 years. But this is in an environment where there is not excessive fouling. There is fouling, but not as much as you will see, for example, in Bipin's examples. Bipin, what would you say? You need to clean sensors, but what's the durability of DCS and DCPS in your area?
So, like few of the places where it's a warm water, and we have seen the 15 days you have to go it. So the thumb book rule is for the sensor, for a few months you have to check every 15 days so that you can know that how the biofouling is being impacted, is impacting the different sensors, like especially which is their water quality, or the DCS or DCPS which is deployed in a tube or in a seabed, like However, the regular, I would say on average we have seen is it's 30 to 40 days is good to go, and you can get the instrument. However, on say few of the critical application, I was a part of environmental baseline data collection for Emirates Nuclear Power Plant, which is there in the coast of Abu Dhabi, and it's 3.8 years program. So few of the cases where we have seen it's a extreme marine growth, like a biofouling growth, which you have to take out the instrument if you're seabed mounted. Check out the instrument, say within 15 days or 20 days to clean it and put it back.
But yeah, we have seen that in general the Doppler current sensors are very low sensitivity to marine growth. So even if you have a lot of growth on them, they still work. They still measure correctly. But yes, I mean, how long the sensors last? I mean, the longest deployments we have are 10 years continuous, more than 10 years continuous. But this is under the ice in Antarctica, for example. They are still going on, and they were deployed 10 years ago. They're still working. But yeah, I think fouling is the main impediment. And then there are ways, we have different ways that we test all the time. We all the time try to protect sensors with non-toxic ways of protecting the sensors against marine fouling, biofouling.
Anders, another way you could look at this question is around survivability and sort of shock and motion in the ocean. And I believe our DCPSs have been deployed on buoys and very active sea states. Maybe you can comment on this?
Yes, I mean, normally on buoys, for example, with a lot of movement and so here, for example, a buoy which is deployed, normally you have to take it up every 2 to 3 years to check everything and check the sensors and I mean, if not water quality for the Doppler current sensors in rough environments, we see, for example, our Doppler current instruments with single point sensors. The RCM Blue is used by aquaculture companies in Norway in large numbers. They do site surveys with them. They are deployed inside PVC tubes. They deploy them and for 3 months, and they recover, download the data through Bluetooth, and then redeploy without opening, without changing batteries, because the batteries last for 2 years. And they just download and check that everything is okay, move to the next site, deploy for 3 months, recover, and do the station hopping in that way. Then they are treated in a very rough way. They roll around on the deck and they get hit against the sides of the ship. The crew is not particularly carefully handling the instruments. So I mean, we have for rough conditions on small boats, and so we recommend to have like we can supply a cage with extra bars to protect it if it's hitting the side of the ship during deployment or recovery, and if it's rolling on the deck and things like this. And then they last very long if you can avoid hitting them directly in a rough way. The DCS and DCPS sensors are extremely reliable over long time periods.
Mark, in addition to what you said, like, I share one of the experience during this 3.2 years data collection with Emrest Nuclear Plant. So, one of the data for our Doppler current profile, we observed that we deployed, everything was correct, but the data was, we found the ADC was upside down, and although it was mounted a gimbal element, like, and then we came out from the observation that although it was mounted on the upside, but a marine mammal has come up and it hit so hard that it became upside down. So learning from this story to all the attendees, be assured that Xylem does provide the I would say second opinion as a free consultancy. What you call how to get the data, what is the best way to gathering the data, and what is the most cost-effective way for with the providing our best practices for the field data collection, so that you get the reliable and accurate, valid data during your measurement period. Can I answer the second one? What are those things that can affect the working process and the data transmission of the sensor? I'm not sure whether it's this is related with the seabed mounters. If yes, then Dr. Anders has already answered this. If you're talking about the sensor is being data buoy related, then you have to we have a standard field visit reports that's developed by the Xylem team. And one of the things, first of all, you have to look for the environmental condition and make sure that you should do a visit if you have a severe weather condition or extreme temperature, or if any expect the water pollutions and all, let's say a big oil spill, or a red tide and all. Another thing is the biofilling. This is day-to-day handle the challenges, and we do handle this in a various way, whether for using from a copper wire mesh to using the mechanical wipers and or sensors, or to using biofouling paints and all, different ways to to mitigate the risk. Third could be the power related issues. We have seen the solar panels being damaged or being vandalized. So we need to, when we design our system, we have to design in a such way that it has to, the power autonomy should be long last. We can do a maximum as much as we can. But however, it is all dependent upon how much payload of sensor we have in a buoy. And we also, transmit the battery voltage data to the user interface. And if it's getting droppers, rather than you come to the site and go there and find out, oh, the battery is dead, you can, with the real-time data, monitoring as part of health and maintenance system, health checkup of the system, you can carry the battery and change it whenever, or solar panel whenever you're visiting. Coming back to the data transmission communication problem, it could be there's some, so normally when we ask the customer, we send our site survey report to ensure that the proper strength of 3G, 4G, or 5G signal should be available at the deployment site. And otherwise we have to then we have to reduce the bytes of the data transmission to ensure that the real the successful data transmit is been happening. Last not the least, we have seen few times where the customer is not using the proper mechanical mounting brackets, and it does, if you don't use it, it does impact your data collection and and those kind of things. So those whenever we are providing a complete solution, we provide a complete comprehensive free consultancy as a second opinion to the users. Over to Mark.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Bipin, for that detailed explanation. The next question comes from Kamal. His question is, how does the DCP and other Andera sensors like DO, turbidity, and conductivity, how are they connected with ROVs, remote operated vehicles? Is there any special cables, connectors, interfaces to connect these sensors with the ROV?
So yeah, maybe I can answer that one. So this was the cases we have seen here. What we saw in the presentation, that was that was about 6 or 7 sensors connected so they are all connected to a Seaguard instrument, cable connected to Seaguard instrument, which is then connected with a single serial line into the ROV. So the Seaguard instrument serves as a hub. To the Seaguard instrument, you can connect basically as many sensors as you want with the CAN bus. And so, for example, in this case, we had just one single point Doppler current sensor. In new applications, we are planning to put single point Doppler current sensor to measure the speed of the ROV, and then Doppler current profiling sensors above the ROV to profile above, and one below to profile below. So then you can measure in free currents. The problem with putting the sensor in front is to find a place where it's not affected by the propellers when it's depending on what the ROV is doing. So yes, it's connected. So sensors are connected to the Seaguard as it serves as a hub, and then the Seaguard is connected to the ROV with a single line serial input.
Great, thanks, Anders. Joseph's got another question. Does the DCPS have memory? Where is the data stored? And if yes, what is the size of the memory in the DCPS?
So the DCPS itself doesn't have memory. DCPS is Doppler current profiling sensor. It doesn't have a memory. It needs a logger. It can be any type of logger taking serial input, or it can be our instrument, Seaguard instruments, or SmartGuard logger. It doesn't have a memory. The DCS Blue, which is used a lot in aquaculture surveys I talked about, it has its own memory. It has an SD card included, and you download the data through Bluetooth. I don't remember how much the SD card is, 4 gigabytes, I think, but it's enough for like 20 years of measurements continuous. So we never it's never a limitation to the measurements really. So yeah, that's the only sensor at this time which we have that has its own memory, the Doppler current sensor, the DCS Blue. So that's a standalone sensor with its own memory.
Great, thanks. So we've come, actually came over the top of the hour here, a little bit after the hour. Anything else to add to this, Bipin, Anders, before we close up here?
No, I think it's. Thank you for your interest and for your participation, for people staying on. And we will send out the recording and also the PDF of the presentation. And also the links maybe to the application notes, Mark. I think you have them all.
Yes, we can send those out with a recording.
Yeah.
Thanks all for attending this webinar for Doppler current sensor. And we're looking forward to talking to you on your next application. Please do reach out to us, and our email ID is being, I'm not sure, Mark, we're sharing the email IDs, or reach out to us to the nearest Xylem office. And we are looking forward to talking to you about your application, and we're here to help you.
And we have Xylem offices in other, so we have Bipin in the Middle East, but we also have in, of course, China, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, yeah, Korea, yeah, Singapore, yeah, many places.
Awesome. Well, thank you to the presenters, and thank you for all the attendees for joining today. And we'll be following up with information and supporting materials. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.